Hello and welcome to PMI's Uncommon Sense podcast, tools to improve your work forever. I'm Susanna Clark, Managing Partner with PMI, the performance improvement consulting and training firm. Our Uncommon Sense podcast is a 15-minute conversation with our expert consultants. They talk a lot of common sense, although much of it is not common practice. And that's what this podcast is all about. We want you to be inspired to improve your business through learning more about the tools which can help you succeed and grow. Hello and welcome to PMI's podcast, Uncommon Sense, Tools to Improve Your Work Forever. I'm Susanna Clark, and today I'm joined by Des Kelly. Des, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Des Kelly, partner consultant within PMI, have been for the last 19 years. Prior to that, I was the Director of Quality and Process Development for Rolls-Royce and Bentley Motor Cars. And I held a number of senior positions in the automotive industry prior to that. I also lecture at the University of Warwick on advanced tools of quality.
Thanks, Des. So today we're talking about strategy and specifically about understanding the world in which we operate and what we need to know about that in order to start to develop our end goals. Des, could you just give us a quick reminder on what understanding the world in which we operate is all about?
Right, so the world in which we operate is going to significantly impact upon our business, both now and in the future. And so we want to understand the primary environments. That's the two-way environment. So actions that we take impact upon that environment, but that environment can act upon us. So if we undertake an action, it will impact on our competitors. They can take an action, it will impact upon us. And the tool we used for that was Porter's. The lenses we used for that was the Porter's 5 forces. Then the other environment, the macro environment, is that one-way transaction. The macro environment influences us, but we rarely influence it. And the example I used was, for example, the COVID pandemic. It impacted upon how most of our organisations work in one way or another. But try as though we may, our organisations probably won't have a big or significant impact on COVID. So those are the go out and study, the learn about the world in which we're operating into just two very simple tools, well taught, well practiced around the world, is to actually say, right, this is the reason we're using this, to go out and undertake the strategic analysis of the world in which our business operates. Once we have undertaken that analysis, we've got to have some way of filtering it and understanding what the data from those analyses is telling us. And the tool that we're going to use for doing that is the well-practiced and well-used SWOT analysis.
So can you give me some more information really about SWOT in this context and what it's doing for us? Right,
so this was, I think, the original use of SWOT analysis. Okay. SWOT analysis, it's a method of analysis used to evaluate the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats involved in our strategy. And it involves specifying the strategic objectives of the organisation and identifying the internal and external factors that are both favourable and unfavourable to achieve the objective. So if we look at the SWOT analysis as a tool itself, I'm going to give you a little grid. So down the left-hand side, if you can imagine, on the y-axis, I've got the internal view and I've got the external view. And then along the x-axis, I'm going to have things that are helpful and things that are harmful. Now, our strengths are an internal view of the things that are helpful. It's an internal view. Weaknesses is an internal view of those things that might be harmful to us. But when we're looking at understanding Porter's and Pestle, that's an external view. So we're using Porter's and Pestle to enhance our understanding of the external view of our organisation. And the opportunities are the things that are helpful in us delivering our strategic intent. And the threats are the external view of what is harmful to our delivery of our strategy.
I really like that helpful, harmful, actually. I've not necessarily used that in the same way before or heard that used in the same way. And I think that really helps to get the context correct for them.
Yeah, and I think that for me, the categorical nature of the external view and internal views helpful in one instinct and in one aspect, because it allows us to say, right, in our opinion, this is what we're good at, or this is what we're not good at. And then the external view is, from the data that we've got, our theory is, here are our opportunities and here are our threats. And if we know that that strengths and opportunities are the helpful categoricals and the weaknesses and threats are the harmful categories, then it's just an easy way of organising what is going to be a whole series of random views, thoughts, data. How do you collect it together to put it into some form of order so you can get some coherency and make it easier for both you and the rest of the organisation to understand? Because by understanding those helpful things and those harmful things, it will enable us to develop better theories about the strategic choices we should be making, and of those things that we are going to do and of those things that we're not going to do. And it allows us just to get clarity.
And presumably, I mean, obviously, we're vested in business improvement. Presumably there's also opportunities for improvement that are going to come out of there as well, because presumably it's also going to inform some of the things that we might want to think about doing in order to make things less harmful.
Well, so the things may be, for example, is that so one of the organisations I'm working with at the present moment, when we did the internal view for them, one of the weaknesses that they actually have is that they don't have any really documented processes. Right? That's a weakness. It's something which could be harmful to them, but it's an internal view. No one outside of the business is likely to know that. Right? And that's one of the other points I think that you've got to take about. With all of these things, you've got to deal with the data with integrity. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be truthful. Because you're only damaging your organisation if you present information which is purely an opinion without any data or any fact behind it. In strategy, I like to say everybody is entitled to their opinion, but that opinion must be supported by data. And if you don't have data to support your opinion, then all you've got is an unsupported opinion.
So we've pulled together this picture that you've described of our SWOT analysis. And then what are we doing with that after that?
You use the SWOT analysis to help emerge the strategic objectives that you're going to be using in the next phase.
Okay.
Right, because the response to the opportunities and threats and the strengths and weaknesses are the things we're going to do. Right, if it's harmful, so my organisation, for example, that may not have processes, the strategic choice may be to develop the business system and all the processes that are required to keep us safe.
And there's something about, you were talking earlier about data and opinion. I can imagine a scenario you find yourself in where you've got the data populated on your SWOT analysis picture and people have different opinions.
But some pieces of data can be interpreted in different ways. And so it's the interpretation that might be different. And I think that's the role of the leadership team, really, is to understand the different ways that the evidence you're seeing in front of you can be interpreted and what the likely conclusion of that might be. But I think that emerges through a mature, unbiased conversation, and not necessarily just being right for themselves in their own right. So I think it's quite a useful thing to have as a stimulus for conversations, and it's perfectly legitimate for a senior leadership team to sit around looking at the data and to debate what that data is telling them, and therefore emerge different theories about how they can respond to that data. That's not unhealthy. That's healthy. That's very helpful. As long as people are treating everybody with respect, you can have these mature adult-to-adult conversations based on the evidence you've got. What that evidence means may be open to interpretation.
Thank you very much, Des, for taking us through SWOT and how to use that in the development of your strategy decisions. Thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. If you want to know any more, you can go to our Knowledge Hub on pmi.co.uk. You can also get in touch with us if you've got any questions for Des. Please do email in team@pmi.co.uk. I look forward to seeing you next time, and thanks again, Des, for your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find more episodes of our Uncommon Sense Tools to Improve Your Work Forever in our Knowledge Hub on our website, or, of course, your favourite podcast platform. And do subscribe so you never miss an episode. Don't forget to check out the show notes for this episode, where you'll find links to more content on this topic, which includes webinar recordings, toolbox guides, blogs, and infographics, and our training page. You can always drop us a line on team@pmi.co.uk and arrange a time to have a call to talk about how these tools can help you in your organisation. We'd really love to hear from you.